Welcome to this tutorial on query connectors in the Data Productivity Cloud. Connectors are essential components that extract data from a source system and provide it to other processes within your pipeline. If you're a data team that needs to extract data from multiple source systems on a regular basis, these connectors, coupled with our scheduling or data streaming features, make real-time and regular updates painless. You can connect to a wide range of data sources using Matillion's library of pre-built connectors. Or you can build your own custom connector when needed. Query connectors allow you to retrieve data using an SQL-like query, giving you flexibility and control over the data you pull. One such query connector is the Salesforce Query Connector, which connects to the Salesforce API to retrieve data to load into a table. Inside the Salesforce Query Connector and all query connectors, there are multiple sets of properties to fill in. The Connect tab is where you configure how a query connector will authenticate and connect to your data source. The authentication method controls how the connector logs in to your data source. The type of authentication will depend on your data source. Here we have the choice of username and password or an OAuth 2.0 authorization code. The OAuth 2.0 code needs to be set up in the OAuth tab of the designer beforehand. Additional properties related to how you connect to your data source will appear here. In the case of Salesforce, I can see the Use Sandbox toggle, which lets me specify whether I am gathering data from a production or sandbox environment. If you need to use a username and password, you will need to input the username, and the password needs to be stored as a secret definition in the Secret Definitions tab of the designer. If you want to use OAuth as the authentication method like I have, then in the authentication property, you will need to select your OAuth profile from the drop-down menu. As a reminder, OAuth profiles are created in the OAuth tab of the designer. The Connection Options property lets you fine-tune connection settings with JDBC parameters. The Configure tab is where you define what data to query and how it should be retrieved. The first setting is mode. In basic mode, you simply select options from the component properties and the query is built for you behind the scenes. If you prefer more control, Advanced mode lets you write your own query directly, giving you the power to fine-tune your data extraction. Next is the data source property, where you select the specific object or table to query from your connected system, like an account table in Salesforce. Data selection lets you choose which columns to include in the query. Just move fields from the left to the right to include them in the output. With Data Source Filter, you can apply conditions to filter the rows returned. Combine Filters lets you define how multiple filters should work together. Finally, the Limit setting lets you cap the number of rows returned by the query. By default, this is set to 100, but you can increase it or remove the limit entirely. If you prefer more control, Advanced mode lets you write your own SQL-like query directly, giving you the power to fine-tune your data extraction. The Destination tab defines where your data will be loaded after it's retrieved. Your destination will be automatically set to the environment defaults, which you can see in your environment settings. These can be changed to a different table on your Cloud Data Warehouse by using the drop-down menus. The type setting determines how data is loaded. Currently, only the standard load type is available, which stages data before loading it into the destination table. For Snowflake, you'll also select a warehouse, database, and schema. These can use environment defaults or be set manually. Target table is the name of the table that will be created and loaded with the data. If a table with the same name already exists, it will be overwritten. You can use the primary keys property to define one or more columns that uniquely identify rows in the table. The stage setting controls where temporary files are stored during the load. You can choose a managed stage or create a custom one just for this component. Stage platform determines the cloud storage service used for staging. You can choose between Amazon S3, Azure Blob Storage, Google Cloud Storage, or a Snowflake managed stage. If using S3 or Azure, you'll also choose a stage authentication method, either environment credentials or a storage integration, which securely connects Snowflake to your cloud storage. Depending on the platform, you'll provide details like an S3 staging area, storage account, blob container, or Google Cloud Storage staging area to define where the staging takes place. The Advanced Settings tab lets you fine-tune how your data is loaded and how files are handled during the process. For example, you can control whether to clean up staged files, trim string columns, apply compression, or recreate the target table. So after all the settings are filled in, you can click Validate, which helps ensure there are no errors before running the pipeline. As we can see in a sample of the data, we have successfully queried some data from Salesforce using a query type connector. This allows us to build transformation pipelines with this data or set up schedules for regular data retrieval. So there you have it. That's how we use a query connector to retrieve data from a source system and load it into a cloud data warehouse. These connectors, coupled with our scheduling or data streaming features, make real-time and regular updates completely painless. If you found this tutorial helpful, please subscribe to our channel for more videos on the Data Productivity Cloud. To learn more about getting started with Matillion, visit matillion.com.